वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Today is the first day of Navaratri. The 9 days, the holy days we are celebrating from today onwards. Today is also the day we are going to start a new series called Navavidha Bhakti, or the 9 modes of bhakti or devotion in Bhagavata. It is very relevant for us to contemplate on God and try to understand what is devotion according to Bhagavata and try to practice it in our day-to-day life. So before entering into subject, it is very important for us to know the significance of Bhagavata. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Bhagavata is sweet as a cake, fried in the butter of knowledge, and steeped in the honey of love for the divine. So there are 2 elements here, knowledge and devotion. Fried in the butter of knowledge, and also the steeped in the syrup or the honey of love, devotion. This great work gives us understanding that knowledge and devotion are not separate. They may seem to be separate in the initial stages, but in the ultimate stage, knowledge and devotion are one and the same. Bhagavata is a great devotional work. So it is the beautiful blending of jnana and the bhakti. So we should know what is jnana and bhakti in the very first place. Jnana is understanding, inquiry into reality, and also rationalizing or rational thinking. This is what constitutes jnana yoga. Through intellect, we try to understand the reality, the God, Atman, and other transcendental entities, and also through rational thinking. This is called vichara in Sanskrit. So the jnana yoga is mainly vichara pradhana. So we find this vichara or the enquiry in Upanishads. Upanishads teach us how to derive at the truth, reality, by rational thinking. And bhakti, we all know, caters to emotions. So we are emotional beings. We have so many sentiments, human sentiments. These human sentiments we are wasting away. They should not be wasted. They should be channelized into higher direction. If I love my neighbor or my family member, that kind of love is only temporal. It is selfish. It is not everlasting. So if I direct the same love towards God, then you will have what is called devotion or the bhakti. The love towards the divine, unselfish love. We will not be asking anything from God. We love for the sake of love because we derive immense joy by loving the divine or the God. That is the essence of the bhakti. In Bhagavata you will find the highest knowledge beautifully blended with the highest type of bhakti. And karma yoga and the dhyana yoga, the yoga of meditation, acts like catalyst to develop jnana and bhakti. By performing karma yoga, we develop purity of mind. That purity of mind will help us in understanding and thinking and learning in jnana yoga, and it will purify our mind and emotions and sentiments that will facilitate us to direct our mind, our love, our sentiments towards the God. So karma yoga is a must. Along with it, karma yoga, Bhagavata asks us to do meditation. Meditation is essential tool to develop ourselves in jnana yoga or the bhakti yoga. Meditation also purifies our mind, makes our mind concentrated. We become more and more disciplined, more and more focused in life. This is the utility of meditation. So in order to meditation, bhakti is necessary. In order to meditate, jnana also is necessary. So the idea is, we will use karma yoga and yoga of meditation to have the highest type of bhakti and the highest type of knowledge. Only in the beginning of spiritual life, we have that distinction or difference between jnana and bhakti. Jnana, we say neti neti, not this, not this. God alone is real and everything is unreal. With this idea we start the jnana yoga. But ultimately we find, as the Upanishad puts it, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, everything is Brahman, everything is God. So the Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga starts with love. Everything has become God. I am loving God, I love everyone. But in the end, one finds union with God. And in that state, Para-Bhakti it is called, there is no difference between highest knowledge and the highest bhakti. Both states are of non-dual nature. Advaita Bhava it is called. We find the illustration in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, where Radharani says, I am Krishna, I am Krishna. She has identified completely with the Krishna consciousness. She has lost the individual consciousness completely. And this is the pinnacle of Para-Bhakti, Prema Bhakti we call it. The same state one achieves in Jnana Yoga. One finds Brahman or Atman everywhere. Ishavasya Upanishad puts it, Ekatvam Anupashyataha. One finds oneness everywhere. So there may be several distinctions between jnana and bhakti, but in the ultimate stage, bhakti and jnana takes the same form, and bhakti and jnana take the same nature, that is Advaita Bhava. Often it is told that bhakti is an obstacle to jnana yoga. It is not so. In Bhagavata we find many devotees of God who love God, they become great men of knowledge. Because bhakti purifies the mind and facilitates one in getting that Advaita Bhava. First one starts with idea that I am different from my beloved Lord, and he approaches the Lord. One becomes one with the Lord and he finds out, I am one with him. There is no two but one. So what Bhagavata teaches is Advaita Bhava. Advaita Bhava through Bhakti. Bhakti is the sadhana. Bhakti is the essence of life. But through Bhakti, one can achieve that Advaita Bhava. This is the message of the Bhagavata. So Bhakti no longer remains here a kind of sentimentalism. So we see many people practicing Bhakti, but they go by sentiment, mere sentiment. Bhakti is not sentiment. Bhakti transcends itself into non-dual knowledge, Advaitic knowledge. Only the emphasis is on Ananda. We know Brahman is Sat, Chit and Ananda. The Sat and the Chit aspect, Sat means existence, Chit means knowledge, and the Ananda means pure bliss. In Bhakti, the emphasis is on Ananda. When you love someone, you will get joy out of it. By loving God, you will get the immaculate joy, pure joy. That joy you will never find in the worldly life. In the worldly life, by worldly means, you can never get that joy. The pure joy, inner joy. That is the joy. That is the Ananda of the Brahman. So now coming to the nature of Bhakti, described in the Bhagavata, we will take some time to understand it. Then only we can appreciate the 9 modes of Bhakti and how it is described in the Bhagavata. So as I already told you, Bhakti is not a mere mental emotion. For an hour or two we do bhajan, we go into ecstasy, then we will come back to our normal plane, full of raga and dvesha, attachment and hatred towards others, and we suffer. That is not Bhakti. Bhakti is a one-pointed mental mode, all-integrated mental mode towards the Supreme Lord. This is the idea we find in the Bhagavata. So how to understand this? Bhagavata says in one of its beautiful shlokas, Devanam gunalinganam anushravika karmanam sattvayevaika manaso vrittihi swabhaviki tuya Animitta bhagavati bhaktihi siddhehe gariyasi jarayatyashuya kosham nigirnam analoyata. The idea here is, we have mental energy, we have the energy of the senses, karmangas, and we have the energies of the what you call jnanangas. So all these energies of the human personality should be combined and directed towards the Lord. So we have the energies of the mind, organs of knowledge and action, Devanam, Gunalinganam, Anushravika Karmanam, Sattva Evaika Manasaha. All these energies become concentrated in a unified mental mode. We concentrate on them. All these energies are withering away in our worldly pursuits, worldly pleasure. But all these should be concentrated and directed towards the Bhagavan or the Lord. And it should be spontaneous. There should be no effort at all on our part. On animitta, there should be no cause. It should be motiveless. What is meant by motiveless? We should not love God for the sake of any worldly motive. We should love God for the sake of love, no extraneous motive at all. That resulting state of mind in a devotee, which is filled with joy, which is filled with hankering for that bliss of divine, it is called bhakti. Bhagavata says, it is superior even to the mukti, siddhi. Siddhehe gariyasi. We do not know what will be the state of mukti, liberation. But here in this human birth itself, now we can get that joy of the Bhagavan. We can derive that Bhagavadananda. That is the idea here. So it is superior even to bhakti. Bhagavata describes it is just like the digestive fire which burns up the food. In the same way, all our sinful tendencies, all our past impressions are burnt away, and our mind will be purified, our body will be purified, and we will become vehicle of that perfect joy, the pure joy of the divine. And this is the definition of bhakti we get in the Bhagavata. So this is bhakti itself is the greatest dharma according to Bhagavata. We have heard of dharma, righteousness, what should be done, what should not be done, how we should conduct in our life. All these ideas you will find in great verse like Mahabharata and Puranas, etc. But according to Bhagavata, this bhakti is the paramo dharma. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje ahaituki apratima yayatma samprasidati. This is the highest dharma. This is the highest kind of conduct. What is that? Somehow or other, we should develop devotion to Lord Adhokshaja, Lord Hari, Lord Krishna. This devotion is ahaituki. There should not be any desire in it. We should not have any selfishness in this, and it should be unshakable. And with that bhakti, our Atma, our mind will get fully contented. This is one of the great characteristics of the bhakti, contentment. In this world, we never get contentment with anything. Even if we attain the highest position in this life, we will never be contented. But this contentment, trupti, you will get in bhakti and the bhakti alone. And this is the greatest dharma according to Bhagavata. Bhagavata says, your whole life should be God-centered. All our actions should have one aim, one goal, that is God and God alone. Vasudeva paraveda, Vasudeva paramakha, Vasudeva parayoga, Vasudeva parakriyaha, Vasudeva param jnanam, Vasudeva param tapaha, Vasudeva paro dharmo, Vasudeva paragatihi. People go after knowledge, learning. In the earlier time, they used to study Vedas. And what is the goal of studying? What is the goal of learning? What is the goal of attaining knowledge? Bhagavata says, the goal of all learning is Vasudeva, Lord Krishna. And we do so many rituals, pujas. In earlier time, they used to do yajnas. And what is the goal of all these rituals, pujas? It is God and God alone. Vasudeva paramakhaha. All our yogic practices, what is the goal? Vasudeva para yoga. All our spiritual practices, yogic practices should have only one goal, that is Vasudeva, Lord Krishna. All our actions, whether it is secular, religious, all our actions should have one goal. The same idea you will find in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Mat karma kritu mat paramaha. Every action should have one goal. We should act with the whole purpose for attaining God and God alone. Vasudeva parakriyaha. All our knowledge should have one goal, that is Vasudeva. Vasudeva param jnanam. All our austerities should have one goal, that is Vasudeva Krishna. Vasudeva param tapaha. All our dharmas, all our right conduct, all our lifestyle in this world should have one goal, that is Vasudeva. And the ultimate goal, ultimate and the supreme goal of every human being is Vasudeva. This is what Bhagavata says. So, in spiritual life, we try to get Vairagya, Jnana, etc. Dispassion, knowledge. What is dispassion? So, we should have kind of indifference towards the worldly pleasures. That is what is Vairagya. And we should also develop the knowledge of God. And we should also develop the discrimination, what is real and what is not real. And Bhagavata says, just to develop devotion to God, that is enough. This devotion to God itself will generate Vairagya and the Jnana. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyashu Vairagyam Nanam Yattadahaitukam. Here the word Bhakti Yoga is used. Yoga means here communion with God. We do sadhana and we go nearer to God. Ultimately, we lose our individuality. Our petty individuality gets merged in the Supreme God consciousness. This is what is called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga has to be practiced with loving devotion to Lord. So we need not separately strive for Vairagya, dispassion or the knowledge. This Bhakti Yoga itself will generate Vairagya for the worldly objects. And it all culminates, as I told you in the beginning, in the Jnana or the knowledge of the Supreme Being. So everyone can practice this Bhakti Yoga. There is no qualification at all. Bhagavata says, Akamas sarvakamo va mokshakamas udaradhihi tivrena bhakti yogena bhajeta purusham paraha. Akamaha, the wise, knowledgeable people, men of knowledge, who have attained that state where they have given up all the desires. They are completely desireless. They can also practice this Bhakti Yoga. Or Sarva Kamaha, ordinary people like is full of desires. Desire for worldly pleasures, desire for prestige, desire for name and fame, desire for money, hundreds and thousands of desires our mind is filled with. Even we are eligible for Bhakti Yoga. We can practice loving devotion to Lord. Or Moksha Kamaha, if we are after liberation, if we desire liberation, moksha, then also we can practice the Bhakti Yoga. Only requisite is we have intensity in the Bhakti Yoga. Tivrena bhakti yogena. Bhakti yoga, as we are told already, repeated remembrance of God, loving devotion. The psychology behind it is very simple. Suppose if I love a person, I constantly remember him. With remembrance comes love also. Love, remembrance always go together. And this kind of love and remembrance, constant repetition of God's name, remembering Him, loving Him and feeling His presence in our heart, and that is what is called Bhakti Yoga. So there should be an intense practice of the Bhakti Yoga, and through that we have to adore or worship the great Supreme Lord. So we need not buy expensive things to adore the Lord. We need not make a mockery of puja to adore the Lord, to propitiate Lord. Tivrena bhakti yogena, through the intensity of bhakti yoga, we should try to propitiate, adore and worship the Lord. And the Vyasa attained that state, Bhagavata says. Vyasa, you know, he is the author of the Bhakti Yoga. There is an interesting story how Bhagavata came into existence. Bhagavata has got a very special origin. Vyasa had written Mahabharata. Vyasa had already compiled the Vedas, but he was very sad in his mind, very much depressed. He could not find peace in his mind. He was not at all happy. Narada comes to his rescue. And Narada says, O Vyasa, I know why you are so unhappy. I know why you are so depressed. Because you instructed the people only dharma, righteous conduct, but you have not taught them how to love God. You have not written a single book where the love of God is instructed, because that is the sum and substance of the whole life. That you have not at all described. That is why you are so much depressed. Now listen to my words. I will teach you how to gain that happiness and how to retain your normal state of mind. Write a book of the devotees of the Lord. Write about the glory of the birth and the deeds of the Lord Krishna. You will definitely gain peace and tranquility. And also, he instructed Vyasa the story of Krishna, and the Krishna story was elaborated in the Bhagavata along with the stories of other kings and other devotees of the Lord. And that is how the Bhagavata came into existence. After writing Bhagavata, Vyasa became his own original self. He became happy. All his depression, sadness, desperate condition went away, and he was filled with the joy of Lord. So, Bhagavata gives illustration of Vyasa, how Bhakti Yoga transforms one's life. Bhakti Yogena Manasi Samyak Pranahite Male Apashyat Purusham Purnam Mayancha Tadupashrayam. So Vyasa Maharshi was filled with Bhakti Yoga. He had an intense devotion to Lord. And he had made the mind very steady by the Bhakti Yoga. he was practicing the bhakti yoga, and all the contaminants in his mind had vanished. Pranihite amale, and he did have the realization of the Paramatman, apashyat purusham purnam, and also the Maya tadupashrayam. So he did have the realization of two. One is the Bhagavan and also the power of the Bhagavan, that is Maya. So in Bhakti literature, Maya is not something to be shunned. Maya is not something to be despised, because Maya is Prakriti. Mayantu Prakritim Vidhi Mayinantu Maheshwaram, Shetashvatara Upanishad says. Maya is the power of God. It is the God's power which has transformed, which has evolved into this whole world. And it is the greatest power of the God. So Mayi is the Bhagavan, one who is having the Maya, and the Maya is this whole world. And the Ashraya, the abode, the Adhara, the edifice of the Maya is nothing but the God Himself. So Vyasa understood the greatness of the Lord and also the word bewitching Maya of the Lord. So the Yama says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is Paradharma? What is the ultimate duty of a man? After doing which there is nothing else to do. Etavaneva lokesmin pumsam dharmaha parasmrutaha bhakti yogena bhagavati tannama grahanadibihi. Vyasa says, all the scriptures say one thing and only one thing. The supreme duty, that is dharma, consists in cultivating devotion. How to cultivate devotion? We will be learning about the 9 modes of the devotion later. But the main emphasis is on hearing about Lord, as you are doing now. Hearing the glories of the God. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam. Janma, my birth is divine. My deeds are divine. One should hear them with full of devotion, full of love. Then one can liberate himself. And also the repeating His name constantly, by singing His glory, by doing His japa of the names. So by repeating one's name, God's name, and also the hearing about the God's name, and also through devotional exercises, practices, one should develop the bhakti. This is the ultimate duty of every human being. There is nothing else to do after that. This is what Yama says. Yama is also the god of death, is also illustrated as one of the greatest devotees in the Bhagavata. Now there is another devotee called Prabuddha. He says, Ishtam dattam tapojaptam vruttam yachatmana priyam daran gruhan sutan pranan anyat parasmai nivedanam. Every action of ours should be dedicated to God. Suppose we give something in charity to others, that should be dedicated to the Lord Krishna. If we perform rituals, puja, sacrifices, that also should be dedicated to Lord. Parasmai nivedanam, the Bhagavata says. Tapaha, whatever austerities, vratas we do, that also we should dedicate to the Lord. Japtam, repetition of God's name, and other spiritual practices, meditation, etc. All should be dedicated to Lord. Vrittam, all our secular activities we do out of selfishness and attachment and aversion, raga, dvesha. By giving up, everything should be dedicated to Lord. And the Bhagavata says, whatever objects dear to us, whatever we love them, whatever is dear to us in our life, in this worldly life, whether it is our wife, dharan, gruhan, whether it is our house, our children, our life itself, pranan, dharan, gruhan, sutan, pranan, our wives, our house, our children, our life itself, we should dedicate, we should offer everything to God. This is the ultimate state of the bhakti, the greatest kind of the bhakti according to Bhagavata. And Bhagavata says even the jnanis are enchanted by the beauty of the Krishna. We know who are jnanis. Jnanis meditate on Brahman and the Atman. They immersed in the Swananda, Atmananda, Brahmananda. They also come out of their ecstatic state or the samadhi state in order to enjoy the bliss of Krishna. Bhagavata says, Atma Ramascha Munayaha Nirgranthaha api urukrame Kuruvanti ahaitukim bhaktim Ittam bhuta gano harihi. Atma Ramaha. They find joy in their own Atman. They do not depend on any external things. That Atman itself is the source of joy, pure existence, pure knowledge for them. And they are the munis, they are the jnanis, they are the great sages. They have cut all knots of bondage of avidya. There is no egoism in them. There is no individual existence in them. Even then, even such people, kuruvanti ahaitukim bhaktim, they also do motiveless bhakti. Without any desire, they develop loving devotion to God. Kuruvanti ahaitukim bhaktim urukrame, in the Lord Krishna. So our Hari, our beloved Hari, our great Hari is of that excellent nature. His qualities are excellent. His nature is excellent. Even the jnanis are attached to this. See, here you will find the excellent characteristics, the nature of the bhakti as described in the Bhagavata. So before going into 9 modes of the bhakti, let me give the summary of 4 verses, 4 shlokas. It is called Chatushloki Bhagavata. So here you will find the whole Bhagavata condensed. What is the essence of the Bhagavata? Shri Lord Hari teaches it to Lord Brahman. He says, Ahameva samevagre nanyadanyat sadasatparam paschadaham yadetacha yo vashishyeta sosmyaham. It is I who was in the beginning. Whether it is manifested or unmanifested, all have come out of me. Everything has come out of me. Whether the word was in the same subtle form, unmanifested state, or in the gross form, everything was in me. And there was nothing apart from me. And the creation took place afterwards. The whole creation also is nothing but me. The whole creation, the whole universe is but God. Paschadaham, after the creation is dissolved, and what remains is myself. That means before the creation there was only God. Even in the process of creation there was only God. And what remained after the destruction of the whole creation is nothing but God. So we get a great truth out of it. What is truth is nothing but God. The whole world, as we call it, with name and form, with variegated creatures, inanimate and inanimate beings, everything is just the projection, just the appearance on the God. The reality is God and God alone. The Vedanta gives an example. Suppose we have a rope, we see a snake on it. There was no snake, there was nothing like snake at all. But we see the snake, it is only an appearance. The snake is nothing but rope in essence. In the same way, whether before the world is created, or during the sustenance of the world, or after the destruction of this world, what remains, what is, but the God and God alone. This is what the Bhagavata says. Rupertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidyādatmano māyām yata bhaso tatha matamaha. Then what is Maya? Here the Lord himself teaches Brahma. It is only an appearance which sometimes appears and sometimes doesn't appear. Before the creation there was no word at all. And after the destruction of the creation, what we call pralaya, there would be no creation, there would be no creature, there would be no word at all. Sometimes it appears, sometimes it doesn't appear. It is only an apparent existence, it is not real existence. So the Bhagavata in this sloka gives the two examples. It is just a reflected image. Reflected image is false, and all the reflected image depends upon the original. The original is real, the reflected image is false. In the same way, the world is unreal and the God alone is real. And also in the darkness you don't see anything. Only when you put on light, in the light you will see everything. So God is like the light. It is He who makes other things to appear. It is who has become everything. And this is the nature of the Maya, according to the Bhagavata. The third shloka says, Yata mahanti bhutani bhuteshu uchavacheshvanu pravishthanya pravisthani tata teshu nateshvaham. We are all students of science. We know everything is made up of some fundamental elements. In Indian tradition, we have Panchabhutas. So we have Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Prithvi, water, Apa, etc. They are the fundamental entities from which the whole world is made up of. It is as if they enter into this world and have become this world. creature, every body, mountain, water, everything. But they retain their independence. They retain their nature. They do not get transformed at all. In the same way, the God has created this world and God has as if entered in this world. We have a beautiful description of entering of God's consciousness into this world in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Tat srishtva tadevanu pravishat. God has created this world and entered into this world. The consciousness we find in this body is but God. The consciousness we find this whole universe is nothing but God. Without consciousness there cannot be word at all. So it is that consciousness which is holding this world. So God is, in the words of Swami Vivekananda, God is within this world and God is without this world, is outside this world. God is not restrained to this. So in Vedanta they give a famous example. There is space within a pot and there is space outside the pot also. The space is everywhere. In the same way, God is within the world. God is within our human body. God is outside it. God is outside the world also. It is He who has become everything within and without. Etavadeva jidnasyam tattva vidnasunatmanaha anvayavyatirekaabhyam yasyat sarvatra sarvada. This is the greatest truth. Every aspirant of truth, aspirant of knowledge should know according to Bhagavata. Anvaya vyatirekabhyam. So when you take everything, all the materials, all the creatures, all the animals, all the plants, all the mountains, all the rivers in the world, so you should understand in everything God is there, in and through. God is there in and through. And also, even if whole world gets destroyed, nothing remains of this world. There is only one thing remains, that is Atireka. So negating everything, what remains? Only God remains. Even if we take everything exists, God alone exists as the essence of it. So in Vedanta they give the example of pot and the mud. There is only mud in the beginning and pot is made up of the mud. What is pot? Nothing but the mud. The pot is in essence nothing but the mud. In the same way, the whole universe is nothing but God and God alone. And this truth you will find illustrated in the whole of Bhagavata. So we were speaking of the bhakti, that is the unified mental mode, all the energies of karmanga, all the energies of jnananga, all are unified and directed towards God. And this bhakti finds expression in 9 forms, 9 manifestations of the bhakti. So the Navavida bhakti instructed in Bhagavata are the 9 expressions or the 9 manifestations of the single bhakti. So it is relevant to us because we should try to practice this Nava bhakti. So Nava bhakti constitutes what we will be learning just within few minutes. So we should practice these now 9 kinds of bhakti. This is sadhana. When one becomes an adept in bhakti, and his bhakti also finds expression in these 9 modes. So these 9 modes of bhakti Navavida Bhakti is expressions of a wise man or the adept in Jnana, adept in Bhakti, through which he expresses his Bhakti, and also it is sadhanas for ordinary people like us. So, what we have learned so far, Bhakti is not just sentiment. Bhakti is not limited to emotions. Bhakti is an integrated way of life. No part of our life is left out without bhakti, without dedication to Lord, without loving devotion to Lord. It is not just exuberant expressions of one's emotion. It is not so. So 9 modes of bhakti are the sadhanas for ordinary aspirants like that, and it is also the forms of expression of one's bhakti in the advanced stage. That is why we have 2 stages of bhakti. One is Vaidhi bhakti or Apara bhakti, inferior bhakti. Using the external tools, we try to develop bhakti, that is called Apara bhakti, inferior kinds of bhakti. Then that bhakti becomes natural for us. Bhakti becomes spontaneous for us. Nobody can stop us from loving God and deriving extreme joy out of it. That is why Narada says in the Bhakti Sutra, Satu Asmin Parama Prema Rupa. Bhakti is of the nature of supreme love. Now Prahalada instructs this bhakti. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu Bhaktischet Navalakshana Kriyate Bhagavatyadda Tanme Adhitamuttamam. Prahalada, as we know, is one of the greatest devotees of the Lord. His story is depicted in the Bhagavata. He says practice of devotion takes place in 9 forms. The first one is Shravanam. Shravanam means hearing about God. So we have to hear intently with devotion the Lord's glories. That is called Shravana. And Kirtanam Vishnoho, singing about the Lord. After some time, at 7 o'clock, the singing Kirtana starts in our ashrama daily. Singing about the Lord's greatness. Smaranam, remembering God. But they say the Smarana or remembering God is the essence of all the other 8 modes of the bhakti. Smarana deva kevalam, Bhagavata says. All our spiritual discipline centered on one thing, somehow or other we should develop remembrance of God. We should try to remember God constantly. Serving hymns, Smaranam Pada Sevanam. So we have his beautiful images, Lord's images, photos, icons, etc. We have to serve them. The service is Pada Sevanam, Vandanam, and paying obeisance to him, Namaskara, and Dasyam, and practicing the attitude of servant towards him. We know how Hanuman practiced this and became a great devotee of the Lord. Sakhyam, and developing intimacy towards him. Like a friend, Arjuna had that relationship. Arjuna was very close to Krishna. and they were great funds. It is kind of an intimacy towards him. So, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, worshipping him, Vandanam, saluting him, Dhasyam, developing a servitude, attitude of servitude towards him, Sakhyam, developing intimacy with him, Atma Nivedanam, surrendering everything to him. And these are the 9 modes: surrendering one's body and surrendering one's mind and soul to him. So if one offers this 9-fold offering of devotion, devotion is one and the same thing as we have understood. And this class we have devoted mainly to understand the nature of bhakti in Bhagavata. But these are expressed in 9 modes that we will learn in the next 4 classes. So, a person who offers his 9-fold offering, Navavidha Bhakti, to the Lord in truth and spirit, he is real well-educated man. That is what Prahalada says. Education does not consist in learning secular things, how to make money, how to gain prestige in this world. No. Learning, education constitutes developing love for God. Iti pumsarpita Vishnu bhaktischet navalakshana kriyate bhagavatyadda tanme tanmanye adhitam uttamam. So Bhagavata also gives an illustration, wonderful illustration of such a devotee. King Ambarisha is described in Bhagavata as one of the foremost of the devotees who has practiced all these 9 modes. So there is a beautiful shloka. Savai mana Krishna padara vindayoho vachansi vaikuntha gunanu varnane. So King's Ambarisha's mind is always dwelt on the Padaravinda, the lotus feet of Krishna. He was always meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna. His mind never deviated from it. And his words were always used to glorify the Vaikuntha Guna, the great characteristics of the Lord Krishna or the Lord Vishnu who resides in the Vaikuntha. Karau Hare Mandiramarjanadishu Shrutim Chakara Achyuta Satkatodaye. His hands were always engaged in cleansing the temples or the shrines of the Lord. And also he was using his words, his speech in extolling the Lord's glories, in narrating the great stories of the Lord. Mukunda lingalaya darshane drusho tadbhrutya gatra sparshe anga sangamam. His vision, his eyes were always engaged in watching with devotion, with faith, the Lord's icons, Lord's images in temples. And his skin or the indriya or the organ of touch was always engaged in touching the feet of the servants of the Lord. Gnanam cha tatpada saroja saurabhe Shrimat Rasanam tadarpite. His organs of smelling was used to smell the tulasi offered to Lord Krishna. Gnanam cha tatpada saroja saurabhe. and the flowers which are offered to Lord Krishna, that only he used to smell, and he used to relish. His tongue was relishing the tulasi patra or the tulasi leaves offered to Lord Krishna. Padau hare kshetra padanusarpane Kshirau Hrishikesha Padabhivandane. His legs were engaged in going to pilgrims to Lord's holy places like Vrindavana, Kashi, etc. And his head was always bent in saluting the Lord who is present everywhere in the form of all creatures, all mountains, all rivers. Everywhere he would see the Lord and bend his hand. And lastly, Kamasya jasyena tu kamya kamaya yathotama shloka janashrayaratihi. He had no desire at all, Ambarisha. He had only one desire. Wholeheartedly he wanted to love Sri Krishna, love the Lord, love Lord. That is the only desire he had. He did not want anything in return for his love. He lived in such a way that would generate deep-seated love for the Lord and his devotees. His whole lifestyle, all activities in life was arranged in such a way that every minute, every action, in every way, he would try to develop love for the Lord Krishna. So he is described in Bhagavata as the embodiment of the ninefold bhakti. We will take up the ninefold bhakti, Navavida bhakti one by one in the next few classes. Remember, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. We will take it by one, and we will try to understand the significance of each Navavida, each Vidha of the Bhakti, mode of the Bhakti, through illustrations from the Bhagavata itself. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Rama Krishnarpanamastu.